My name is Philip Clements. I'm the Director of Bands and Instrumental Activities. This is Alan Goodwin, the Associate Director of Bands and Director of the Pride Marching Band. We appreciate your time this morning to talk about the request for the marching band and basketball band count first, and then a one-time request. A lot of this is on your information sheet as well, but I'll highlight a few things. One of the things that we try to do is serve the entire university and support the mission of the university through the Pride Marching Band. You'll see us at home football games. We're able to go and do recruiting events away from campus at exhibitions for high school contests. You'll see us at various small groups, basketball games. Sometimes we'll do an away game or two, depending on the athletic budget. And then a lot of kind of small things around campus as we're asked to do by the president's office or those kind of things to support the mission of the university. We have music majors and students majoring in almost every other academic discipline, and you'll hear from them in just a little bit. But again, it's a global entity that encompasses a lot of different people on campus that we're proud to serve. You can see examples of different majors within the marching band. The bulk is music majors because we have a large contingent of music education majors in our department. But we have a lot of different other majors represented within the University Marching Band and the basketball band as well. If you've been to football games, if you've been to the basketball games, I think you know the energy that the marching band and the basketball bands bring to each of those events. I will say this, when the football team was not very good, we were very good. And now that they're very good, we're still very good. So we try to be the consistency within all of that. We thought it might be good for you to hear from some of the students. So these are all, we had a lot of interviews to choose from, but these are non-majors. And I can't remember exactly what their particular majors are, but kind of what the Pride has meant to them and their experience on campus as being within the marching band.
I don't feel that I would be as connected to the university without the Pride Marching Band.
I would say I enjoy most of the people.
I've developed a really close relationship with the majority of people in band.
I've had the opportunity to serve the band program, whereas in high school I didn't have as many opportunities to serve.
The members of Pride, it's so positive, and so friendly, and so interconnected. It's just like a big family.
It's given me a reason to socialize.
Becoming close to people, working together towards the same
Since the first day that I came to band camp, I just felt like I was accepted like right away.
I have people that I know will always be there.
It's just been an amazing experience for me.
We try to create a place of belonging for everybody in the university, a sense of family that they can tie into immediately, no matter what their major. If they come here and they don't know anybody in the university, they've automatically got 214 friends and family members that they can feel like they're a part of something and continue their music making from the high school level. So I thought it might be interesting for you to hear from just a few of those folks. The program growth, I took over the program in 2008. In 2007, we had 80 members in the marching band, and you'll notice it kind of peak around the 200 mark about 4 years ago. Mr. Goodwin came to us 7 years ago, and with his work you can see the growth there. But we're now one of the largest, and I would say one of the best marching bands in Division II, and equal a lot of the marching bands in Division I as well. I just wanted you to kind of see that growth that we've had. This has been in large part due to student service fee support. Everything that comes from student service fees goes directly to the marching band and basketball band. You'll notice kind of the correlation in how the growth of the funding and where the plateau occurred as well for the last 4 years as we've kind of hit that close to $80,000 mark. We were able to top 200 students in the marching band have kind of been there at that point. We think a target of 250 is possible, but, and I'll talk about that in just a second, with some of the reductions that we've had, we haven't been able to get there, and I'll show you how we might be able to do that. So the request is all in writing. I'm not going to go through this line by line, but I just wanted to look at the big portions here. We have part-time instruction with a group of over 200. It takes a larger staff to be able to teach that, just like the football team has assistant coaches and lots of folks helping them. So salaries and wages subtotal is $31,000. I will mention the things that are in gold were things that we had to reduce based on our request last year. We requested close to $120,000. We were funded about $80,000, so we had to cut somewhere. One of the places we cut was we did one off-campus local exhibition instead of two. Now, the numbers here represent the request for next year, but I just wanted you to see where the cuts were that we made. As we get into this, you'll notice we had to make cuts in our color guard participation stipends. The majority of those are not music majors. And then also we're trying to do, we've been trying for several years to put in place a program where we could help our non-majors be a part of the marching band and not have to be an expense to them, to really get more of those students involved. We figured that we could probably get about another 35 non-majors involved with these participation stipends, and that would help us. But that's been the luxury that we've had to get rid of as we've gone into the allocation versus the request. Pre-semester rehearsals is another place that we've had to remove just a little bit. We always have, they move in early, about a week and a half before. We have to pay for housing for that, and right now we're able to do that. It's about $5,000 to do that, but we aren't able to provide any food for them. So they pay their own food while they're here on campus before their meal plans start. So that's somewhere between, can be up to $200 to $300 per student that they're having to pay just to be here to rehearse. That $15,000 would allow us to get to the point that they were able to provide that for them, and that would be a very, very nice gesture for all the hard work that they put in over the course of that week and the course of the season. We showed this video a few years ago. We think it's important. It's always what happens if we reduce the budget. So I'll show you this, and I think this kind of speaks for itself. Whoops. It didn't speak for itself. So I think you can see the difference between 2007, when we had 80 members, what it sounded like and looked like, and what it sounded like the past 5 or 6 years in terms of what we provide for the university. So that's the first part of our presentation. It takes us up through marching band, basketball band. At this point, any questions? I know I went fast. I wanted to make sure I stayed within the 7 minutes. Anything that you might have for us? Mr. Goodwin, is there anything that you want to add to?
A question that we're occasionally asked is above and beyond football games and basketball games and so forth, where do we see the Pride Marching Band? And there's a number of them, but some of the ones that you might recall quickly would be the annual Veterans Vigil. There's always marching band members that are involved there, main event activities, pep rallies, and that sort of thing. So there are more small group events that happen around campus that are part of the larger university recruiting effort. Just since the members of the marching band or a pep band derived from that can add an awful lot of energy and excitement to other campus events. Things during homecoming week, hot dog spirit rally, and so forth. There's a number of those. So if you're looking for those other opportunities that the marching band has to plug in, that's generally those are the kinds of things that we do aside from the athletic events themselves.
I would add, our request is close to $120,000. That is the mark that will allow us to get to the point where we're really, I think, doing the service for the students that we need to. We try to save cost at every opportunity. When we travel, it's $4 to a room. We do minimum per diem. But we ask an awful lot of those folks. They pay for the class. They pay for all their T-shirts. They pay for polo shirts. There's a band fee that they pay as well. They have to pay for all their meals pre-season. So they're already doing a lot to pay just to be in that. And I think if we could get closer to that $120,000 mark, it's going to allow us to do some things for the marching band in return for all they do for the university. We would appreciate that increase very, very much. Yes?
How much time would a student in a marching band would have to put into dedicate for practice and rehearsals and all those?
Yeah, when they get here, they're going to do about a week to a week and a half of 8 in the morning till 8 at night. 12-hour days for 6 to 7, 8 days, just to be ready for the first football game. Then each week we have 6 hours of rehearsal. Some of them have sectionals outside of that and individual practice time. And then game days, they're here at 8 or 9 in the morning to do a walkthrough, then they're back to get ready for the game. So it's an all-day activity on Saturdays. And so there's, 6 Saturdays and then plus usually 2 to 3 exhibitions, same thing. So, 10 Saturdays within the fall, they're involved in that. Those are in basketball, band, then you add all of that on there. So that the hours, they get 1 credit hour for the class.
So most of the students, is it fair to say that they probably wouldn't be able to have any job on campus and all this?
It's very
because of
difficult in the
extra
fall for
requirement?
them to have a job because they're trying to work around all those schedules. There's a Monday night rehearsal and there's, every weekend, it's hard to get an employer to do that. So the participation stipends would go a long way in helping them be able to participate. We have a lot of students that say, I'd love to be in band, I just can't afford to do it. Pay for the class and not work. So that would really make a huge difference in getting those students. And I think the more of the different students we have involved across the university, it's a better experience for everybody involved in the marching band. That's a great question. Thank you. All right.
For other Division IIs, are the stipends pretty much the norm too, or is it?
It varies school to school. I don't know how many of the other schools in our conferences you've seen. I think it's kind of you get what you pay for. If you see a marching band and go, wow, I'm glad that's not our marching band, then they probably don't have stipends. And if you see one that's, that's larger and across the country, then yes, they do that. In Division I, it's almost a foregone conclusion. So our goal is to, we don't think of ourselves as a Division II marching band. We think of ourselves as a great marching band, a great program, and we want to represent the university the best way we can every single time they put on the uniform. So any way that we can do that and help the students, they sacrifice so much to be a part of this, and they get a lot out of it, certainly, but it's a lot of time beyond what a normal class would be.
Well, just by way of comparison, in the Division I territory, the average for a participation stipend for a marching band member would be somewhere between $2,500 and $5,000 per student for this semester, just to give you a little bit of an idea. And that's to offset not only fees and their time, but lost income as well. So it makes it a little bit more palatable to an incoming freshman that's not sure that they're going to have the time or not sure that they're going to have the funds to make their way through that first year, when they know that the marching band program is committing to them to honor that sacrifice of time.
And we're not looking at something at that level. We're hoping to cover the cost of their class for them, the cost of their band fee, and then a little bit extra just to make it an incentive. Probably $500 to $750 per person is what we're looking at to do that and maximize the number of players we can get for that. The problem is we're recruiting right now, and so we can't offer that to them because we don't know. So it's almost a year in advance kind of thing, because we need to have that money in the spring to be able to offer it for the following fall, because we're almost through all our auditions right now. So this would be kind of looking a year into the future, and we could help some of our students a little bit. We get students that apply through the summer as well.
Do you have other avenues that you could pursue in terms of financial?
We do. We use some of our summer camp proceeds to do that. We use, again, they pay a $100 fee. We're working through development to do that. So we're pursuing it on multiple avenues, not just this one. But since we're talking about for non-music majors, we felt like this was one of the best bodies to come to because that represents the entire university. There's certain things in the music department that's only for music majors that we wouldn't bring to this group necessarily for that.
How many non-music majors are there?
Right now, what did we have last year, at 40?
Yeah, it varies. On the low end, when I first got here, maybe 5 to 10 non-majors, and we've had as many as 50 in recent years. And most can participate for a year, perhaps 2, and then by the time they get to their junior or senior year, it's difficult for them to justify the lost income or having to pay that kind of money and sacrifice of time for a 1-credit class. Those are always cheerful and heartfelt conversations because they don't want to do it. It's just a kind of a more practical reality for most.
I think we could probably get close to 90 to 100 non-majors if we can get the funding and move towards that, which would put us at about 250 overall, which would be probably the largest Division II. And I think you'd see a difference. I mean, there's a difference between 200 and 250 on the field. And that's just something we're working towards. So.
And those larger numbers also allow you to segment that group. Mr. Clement's son is in the marching band at Oklahoma, and that marching band has hundreds of pep band events in the fall, but the group is large enough that they can divide into smaller ensembles, so that you're not looking at expecting 25 or 30 or 40 such activities, that can range in time spent between a half an hour and a couple of hours, for logistics, the part that the audience doesn't see, where some people may be asked to do 25, 30, 40 of those in a semester by virtue of having a larger group and dividing that into smaller pep ensembles that can do different things for the university. It gives us more flexibility and doesn't dominate their time to the same degree.
I will mention, if my son was a music major, he'd be here. But he's doing public relations. Well, should we move on to the second half of the presentation? I'm going to ask Mr. Goodwin to lead this part with our one-time request.
Right. Well, so you've got a one sheet there that talks about it. You see some football stadiums and things like that. That'd be the one that you're looking for. Part of what many marching bands do at the university level, I won't say most, is perform an exhibition at area high school marching band competitions and so forth. The idea there being that from a recruiting perspective and from the standpoint of exposing an audience to what our university is and what it has to offer, is greatly increased. Just to give you, for instance, a sellout football audience here on campus is somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 football fans, some of whom are there to see the marching band. The majority of them are there obviously to support the football team. We go to a high school marching band exhibition, whether it's local or regional or national, then you're talking 10 or 15,000 in the audience that are band specific, that are some of the highest ranked students in their classes at their high schools, and their parents and their high school band directors and so forth and so on. So it's a knowledgeable audience that requires a lot of us from a performance standpoint, because they want to see and hear the difference between a university ensemble and a high school ensemble. But it's a fabulous marketing tool, not just for the music department and for our instrumental music program, but for the university in general. This particular request is in result of our having been invited by a group called Bands of America, which is under the umbrella of Music for All, which is an organization that sponsors music education events all over the country and in fact all over the world. Bands of America has a network of marching band competitions around the country. One of those, because of the generosity of this group, we were able to accept an invitation to perform last November in San Antonio at Super Regional, they call it, in front of about 25,000 people live, 25 to 30, and then probably 50 or 60,000 additional online with live streaming subscriptions. So nearly 100,000 people at that particular event had an opportunity to see and hear us perform. And those are people that might not otherwise be familiar with Texas A&M Commerce, because they're from all over the state of Texas and in fact all over the country. The Bands of America Grand Nationals is literally what it sounds like. It's a national high school marching band competition. So the average attendance there per day over a 3-day event is well in excess of 100,000, including online subscriptions. So it's an opportunity to broadcast the Texas A&M University Commerce brand to the entire nation. There are a whole lot of ways that we're able to do that in many disciplines. Obviously, winning a Division II National Football Championship was one of those. We would say that this is akin to that and in front of a larger audience. For those of you that were at the national championship game a couple of years ago, fantastic event, and we're still basking in the afterglow of that. But there were about 2,500 people in attendance at the game versus an audience of far in excess of that. So the Bands of America organization invites 2 or 3 university marching bands every year to come and perform an exhibition, and that's just based on a history of performance excellence and recommendations from high school band directors from all over the country that are familiar with different programs. So it's an honor just to be invited and to be recognized in that way. Obviously, it would require from us charter bus transportation and minimal lodging and meals and equipment transportation and those kinds of things in order to do that. Grand Nationals is held annually at Lucas Oil Stadium, which is the home of the Indianapolis Colts in Indiana, and that's because it's sort of centrally located for the country. We wish that it was centrally located in Dallas. That would be great, but they haven't made that decision. What you're seeing right there is the top 10 ensembles that have a chance to get on the field together in what they call a retreat and perform. Before this would happen would be when the university marching band is there, when they're literally awaiting results. So not only is the gigantic audience there, but all of the students that have performed are there to wait and see how they finished. So it's a captive audience that's really gigantic. And Dr. Newsom was with us in San Antonio last November, and he can tell you that the atmosphere is really electric. Just walking in, it feels like a Super Bowl atmosphere, but for marching bands specifically. This is a list of groups from 2018, this last fall, that participated in that event, and you can see just on the right-hand side, they're from all over the country, states all over the place, and in high schools you may not necessarily be familiar with. But again, trying to expose the nation to the Texas A&M Commerce brand is a rare opportunity that we'd love to accept that invitation. So based on our what has become sort of our standard enrollment of 215 students, this would be the breakdown of expenses, and you also have that in a sheet in front of you. So charter buses, you're looking at $1,500 to $2,500 per day per bus, and an ensemble of our size travels in 4 charter buses anytime we go somewhere. So you start doing that math, and the addition happens pretty quickly. Then several nights hotel, because it's an extended drive, probably not one that bus companies would make without a night of rest between here and Indianapolis. I've made that drive, I don't know if you have, but it's pretty long. And there's not enough Mountain Dew or Red Bull to get you there, nor do we want the charter bus drivers to do that. Obviously, we want to take care of a per diem for our students in terms of meals if they're going to represent the university and not have to go out of pocket for that. And then a small amount there for equipment trucks, literally just to carry the stuff that we have. Ordinarily, you think you could put those underneath a charter bus, but when you've got luggage and you're having to spend a couple of nights, then you move those things into U-Haul trucks or that kind of thing to transport equipment across the country. Just in letting the Pride know about the invitation, you wouldn't believe the response. And it's seeing their efforts rewarded, and their hard work and their sacrifice and sunburn and creepy bugs coming out on Monday night rehearsals, or dealing with 125-degree temperatures on the AstroTurf when we rehearse on Tuesday, Thursdays from 12:30 to 2:45. There's a reason that our football team doesn't practice during that time. It's subhuman conditions, but we like to say that it toughens the group up, and they're able to perform in pretty much any weather, and any temperature and that kind of a thing. But they're tickled with the opportunity and would love to have the chance to represent the university. Some of those video clips you saw, we did ask questions about that, but in the interest of time, weren't sure we'd have a chance to show you any of that video. But we asked specifically what their thoughts are on that invitation. And the girl at the end, I don't know if you noticed in that first video, the blonde teared up talking about the experience in marching band. She couldn't get through answering the question just because coming from a 1A high school where there are more people in the color guard here on campus than there were in her 1A high school band, having a chance to go represent a university on the national level, something that she just never thought she'd have the opportunity to do. So that's the general breakdown there. I'd be more than happy to answer questions about the one-time event.
So you've asked for almost $58,700.
Correct.
Is there a pinch point at which it would make the trip impossible? I mean, if we were able to help with that funding, could you possibly find some money other places?
Well, anything is possible. With respect to that trip that we took to San Antonio this last fall, which again, I can just say as an aside, we look at as a reward to the students for their hard work. The president's office and a couple of others on campus found a little bit of money here and there, but the lion's share of that just isn't available through our operational budget, which has remained flat over the last decade, despite the massive growth in the program itself. So this group could certainly help us towards that effort.
Yeah, I mean, anything will help, and we've always had to piece these trips together. We've never been fully funded. There would probably, if there were $3,000 allocated, that's not going to do that. And I know that Dr. Cooper in the past sometimes has allocated things over a 2-year period. If for some reason we weren't able to do that, we could look to the future, but we were going to have to let them know the answer to the invitation fairly quickly. They need to move on to the next invitation to the band. So.
And you may have said this, but I apologize for multitasking over here. But this is a kind of, I wouldn't say a once in a lifetime invitation, but it's one that it's not going to come every year. It's not
no,
going to come in.
If we do, if they move on to the next group, they've got a list of people, so you kind of move somewhat to the back.
No, what I'm asking is, so this is a big trip to Indianapolis. You don't anticipate that that the invitation is gonna come again next year.
No.
So this is truly just a one-time,
Yeah, it might be 10 years
Okay,
before
that's
we ever
what-
get that invitation.
okay.
Well, and the person behind us on the list of invitees is Alabama. Just
Okay.
to give you an idea, they're the next people down, so, and that's a group that's been seen, you know, on worldwide television and national championship games, so they have us slotted ahead of them in a position. It's possible that we could defer for a year and just say that the finances didn't allow for it and that kind of a thing, but there's no guarantee
Yeah.
that you're invited on, you know, that following season, because they've probably made preliminary invitations to other universities who are already looking at their athletic schedules and finding out when there's a
Yeah.
Saturday football game that's out of town that the marching band's not expected to be part of.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It happens to work this year with our home away schedule. You know, if next year that we had a home game on this date, well, obviously we couldn't accept the invitation. So there's a lot of variables to it.
So we beat Alabama in something.
Yes, absolutely.
We may see a banner made that says that.
Well, and when I let the students know about the invitation, I mentioned that Alabama was next on the list, so that was pretty exciting for them.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting for me.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
How are you going to, I think this is a pretty conservative budget, and you think that the students would be okay about spending four students in a room?
That we do that every time. They're always for
Just as a necessity, we'd love to not,
Yeah.
but just out of necessity and limited funds, you know, that seems to be the quickest and easiest manner of doing that. The staff, we put two to a room. And Mr. Clements and I like each other, but maybe not enough to sleep in the same bed.
I'll pay for my own room.
Well, I went with them to San Antonio. I actually rode the buses and stayed in the hotel, and
Have four
there's
of
no
you in a room?
extravagance, believe me. It's,
Stay four of you in a room?
it's a shoestring budget for sure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we want to make sure we're being frugal about it. And
Yes,
students understand that. They understand it's
Appreciate that.
an opportunity and those kind of.
Well, the high school groups that participate in this event, it's massive fundraising efforts, and students, you know, selling candles or Thanksgiving turkeys or whatever it is, and if you're a parent and have had to help with some of those fundraisers, you know that you wind up with a lot of stuff at home that you never wanted to buy in the first place. So we try to avoid those sorts of things for our students at this level, try to provide those things for them so that they don't have to do a bake sale to get us down the road a few miles.
Let me ask one question. The one-time funding and the regular funding, those are two separate funding sources, is that right?
They are, normally we haven't distinguished them this year. Because quite frankly, when we distinguish them, we tend to juggle things anyways based on availability of funds. They're two separate things in terms of the way we consider them, because it is important to us to know that if we fund something this year, we won't be obligated to fund it again. But it's all going to come out of the same pool of money, basically.
Great. Anything else I can answer for you? I think we're kind of right at time. Should you have any questions, then feel free to email us. Make sure that you use your little marching band member flash drive. If you didn't get one of those and you'd like one of those, we have a few extras. That is, believe it or not, a huge hit with incoming high school students. They like those quite a bit.
All right.
All right.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you all for your time. Have a great day.